and welcome to another episode in the series of Tea Time with me. So if you're new here, I post videos every Friday. First week of the month on Friday, I post my Commit to Action series episodes, where I'll be taking you guys out on adventures, both kayaking, paddleboarding. I want to try snowboarding this year. A lot of fun stuff yet to come. So stay tuned on that. I also do have a little subscribe button down below for you guys if you want to get little notifications on up and coming videos. And alright, so back into what today's video is going to be about. I plan on debunking 10 myths in the fitness industry. So a lot of these you guys might already know about or be aware about, but I thought it'd be really fun to maybe learn something new. So please pop into something comfy, get something piping hot. Let's jump into it. Alright, you guys all got something piping hot? I'm ready to start debunking 10 myths with you. So I did make some notes on my phone about some of the topics I'm going to be covering today. And I just want to say, as a side note, I'm not a nutritionist. I do not have a license. So make sure to consult your doctor before you change or do anything different nutrition-wise or changing up your regimen. Gotta be safe, guys. Also, today I decided to pick a really good tea. It's turmeric and ginger. And then I put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there for like a kick. And because it really helps me restart my morning, I don't know if it's a placebo effect. Maybe, but it does help me.
A few moments later.
Oh, fuck me. And on this channel, no judgment. So, alright, let's jump into the first one here. So if you are considered heavy on the scale, that means that you're overweight. Now this is a myth in some cases. So an example of when this would be a myth, for instance, would be if you're starting your fitness goals and you start gaining a lot of muscle, right? Muscle is going to weigh a lot more than fat. For instance, so 1 pound of fat equals about 10 pounds of muscle. Now obviously those are really big differences in weight, but the density that is involved with that amount of muscle equivalates to the same pound as 1 pound of fat. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, I could be 10 pounds heavier for having gained more muscle. So that's essentially how that myth is debunked, because it involves muscle intensity. Same with like your BMI, for instance, will be adjusting as you get more and more intense into your fitness regimen. For instance, I have a friend who actually is really strong bodybuilder, and he does not even look at his BMI. He doesn't calculate it that way because it doesn't make sense for how much muscle he has. Because they're essentially saying he's obese when he's just has a crap ton of muscle. So anyway, that was the first one. The next one is you can't build muscle with veggies. A lot of people truly believe that you can't be vegan and you can't be vegetarian because you won't get enough protein in your diet. Now, in many cases this might be true if you're trying to bulk up really fast, but you can actually follow a vegan diet and be a bodybuilder. You can gain a lot of muscle actually being vegan if you know what you're doing and you're eating the right things and you're getting enough nutrition into your diet with each meal. I have never been vegan for long enough to make it noticeable with my muscle gain. And check out vegan lifestyle if you're interested. So, not to get sidetracked, let's jump into the next one. Women tone and men build. Many women that I know, especially if they're starting out, they don't want to get super bulky. They're talking about bodybuilders, and they think by lifting heavier they're going to look bulkier. This is only the case as if you're boosting up your calorie intake, because that's essentially what bulking is you're boosting your calorie, mostly proteins, to gain a lot of muscle at an efficient rate. Now, this does not mean that when you lift heavier, you're going to automatically look like them. A lot of bodybuilders, it takes a lot of years, a lot of effort, a lot of restraint to get to look like that. It's definitely not an overnight process. By boosting your poundage up 5 pounds more than what you're already lifting is not going to make you bulky. Same with men who build. They're essentially the same things, we're just using different terminology with them. And I think the idea of being toned, you want more muscle, because that is what's going to cause that effect. Lean muscle is going to make you look like you're idealistic, what you're envisioning, essentially, toned, because you want thinner muscles that make and less fat. So your skin's tighter, you got a nice booty going on, you got nice hips, whatever you want, nice arms. All of that's going to happen through healthy eating as well as gaining lean muscle. So in that case, bodybuilders, like I said, they usually bulk. This is not every bodybuilder I know does this, but bulking does increase the amount of muscle that they gain, but it also does have like a little bit more fat generally, and then they lean off that fat and they they are shredded. That's kind of how some of them do it. Everybody's a little bit different, but the people that I've met, the trainers, everyone that I've met in my life have all had that in some aspect. So, on to the next one. You can't be ripped all year. This is actually not true. You can stay ripped. It's going to take a lot of diet, and it's really not recommended. Especially for women, you have to maintain the amount of hormones. We're meant to have more fat on us in general, especially in the midriff, because when we have children, that area is going to stretch out. If you don't have any fat here, you're probably going to end up getting more stretch lines, all of that when you have a baby, and it's really not good because you can get the baby malnutrition. Like I said, these are just things that I've read. Maybe some people have been super fit doing it. I think I actually follow some people who have, but like I said, it's not good to maintain a really low body fat all year round, especially for women. Men, you can, but it's still really not recommended for them either, because you have to have, when you're being in a deficit, which means you're eating less calories so that you lose weight or essentially lose weight, or if you're at a maintaining point, you shouldn't be at a deficit for longer than 12 weeks. Some people have the right hormones and genes to maintain no body fat or less body fat, where they show abs all year round. But like I said, that's not in every case, and if you're basically maintaining a bodybuilder effect, you're never going to look like a bodybuilder year round. That's just fact. Okay, on to the next one. Carbs are bad. This is really bad for what society has really stricken us with, because, for instance, a lot of people have just cut out carbs altogether. Carbs are incredibly important to promote and give you energy. That is what they are. So you're going to, if you're doing it for long periods of time, and I'm talking about like months and months on end without having any carbs in your diet whatsoever, your brain functionality is actually going to go down because you are not getting enough nutrition in your diet to maintain a healthy person. You need to have energy if you're doing incredibly intense workouts or just workouts in general. If I'm on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes, God, that would be like a horrible workout for me. I usually do like 15 minutes and when no, that's good for me. Let's just say you're on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes. You're going to probably want carbs because you need to get through that workout, especially if you're like me and I don't have any caffeine in my diet at all. I completely cut it out, and this involves energy drinks and it involves pre-workout because I actually have an underlying heart condition where it causes a lot of discomfort essentially if I have a lot of caffeine. Going to power you through your workout, or you could have just had carbs the night before because it actually makes you be more energized for your workouts and it's going to get you better results faster. Now, that being said, this kind of goes into the next one that I wanted to talk about. Fat is bad. And by fat, I mean eating fatty, dense foods like avocado or olive oil is really bad for you and it's going to make you fat. This is another thing that is, it's kind of along the same wavelength as carbs, because if you are looking at your macros and micros, I usually look at my macros, or at least I'm going to be transitioning into a more macro diet instead of focusing so much on calories, because macros are breaking down those calories so you know what nutritional value you're getting from your food, essentially. So with eating more fat, that doesn't mean that you're going to gain fat. If, let's say, 50% of your diet, or even probably like 20% of your diet is all fat, fat foods usually are going to have higher calorie intakes than, same with carbs, it's going to be higher calories, and this is kind of why people think they gain weight, is because they'll just eat a large dense of just fatty foods, or they'll eat a large dense of just carbs. But you want a nice blend of protein and fat. Get that? So you want, what I end up doing is about, let's see, 20% to 30% carbs in my diet. This is something I'm going to be trying. And then 25% fat. And I want like over half of it to be protein and vegetables. Those are huge. You know, leafy greens, they always say, never eat one type of something. So for instance, if you hear superfoods, which gets thrown around a lot in today's society, oh yeah, these superfoods are really good, like grapes are considered superfood, blueberries are considered superfood. This is not saying that they're bad, it's actually saying that they have more vitamins in them than other food. So it's basically looking at their nutritional value for you and saying that they're healthier. But what I usually end up seeing, at least in the fitness industry, is that some people will just think, if I eat those, I'll be healthy. But if I eat a whole thing of grapes, that's still a lot of calories. And calories in, calories out is a thing. That's how it works. That's how you lose weight. That's how you gain weight. That's how you bulk up. It's really, really important for you to pay attention to how many calories you're eating, not to be fixated on calories though. That's another whole topic for another day. But no, I see people always eating a ton of grapes or a ton of blueberries because they're like, this is a superfood and it's going to give me a lot of nutritional value. Yes, but overeating or eating too much of one thing is also really bad for your health in some ways as well, because you need to have a rainbow of foods on your plate. That's going to give you the most vitamins, the most nutritional value, and it's going to make you probably the healthiest, and it's more beneficial for your overall health. Okay, that was kind of a long monologue. We're going to go on to, so natural, organic, gluten-free foods are best for weight loss. This is kind of the same thing I just touched on, but calories in, calories out. No matter what you're eating, you can always eat too much of a good thing. Organic foods are going to have less pesticides, but that does not mean that they don't have pesticides. It just means that they're FDA regulated, as in they're in the recommended amount of chemical for human consumption. They still have chemicals that are potentially dangerous for you, but they'll have less of it than other foods. I actually had a science teacher back in high school talking to the whole class about how he thought that organic food was a really, really stupid idea because it's not really necessarily healthier for you. It's the same food, you're just getting a little bit less chemicals. But in today's society, everything has chemicals. And I am definitely not saying, I'm eating organic, should I just not be eating organic now? I'm not. You do what makes you feel healthiest. If you notice a difference in eating organic food, keep doing that. I'm not telling you to change your life. I just am being real that it still does have chemicals in it. So if that's the reason you're doing it, you can always reevaluate. It does have a lot less. I know I eat more natural and organic foods because I feel better. Whether that's a placebo effect, it doesn't really matter. It's about what makes you feel good, right? That's what life is. You should do things that make you feel good because it's going to make you be more content with your life. That sounds really bad. But, and then the other area of this I wanted to cover was actually talking about gluten-free. So this is actually a really, really, really big problem. I have a lot of friends that are celiac, and celiac means that you're intolerant to gluten, as in you can't have gluten or you're going to have a lot of negative side effects. For instance, a lot of them get migraines, some of them puke from it, and it's a really big problem because society has basically told us that gluten-free options are healthier. This is not true, and I've actually met people who have said, oh, I'm gluten-free. And I asked them, oh, so you're a celiac? And they're like, what's that? And I said, well, you just said you were gluten-free. And they're like, yeah, I can't have any gluten because I feel like it's less healthier for me. So they'll go to restaurants and say I'm gluten-free. But the big long-term problem with this is when you say you're gluten-free, in the kitchen they're going to be doing a lot of proactive measures. And there's actually a few restaurants now that they've been doing that, right? But they get a little slacky on some of that because a lot of people aren't actually celiacs. And this has happened to a lot of my celiac friends where they'll go and they'll say how important it is, like I'm gluten-free and I really, really need to make sure that nothing. Then sometimes, and this is definitely more on the food industry, but it is you as a consumer to be taking proactive measures on this. If you aren't actually a celiac, don't say I can't have any gluten on anything because I have an allergy to it. Because if you don't actually have an allergy, you shouldn't say you have an allergy, because people are going to take people who actually have allergies potentially less serious, and it could have detrimental effects. Same with, if you're lactose intolerant, a lot of people have been saying that because it's healthier, because it's usually less calories. But it's really just, don't tell people you don't have an allergy if you don't have one. Even if you feel like it's healthier, I want everyone to be safe and healthy. That's the goal. So, if you're in the food industry and you're not taking what people say seriously, take them seriously. It is an actual thing. I can verify. Let me know if you have any questions about any of this as well in the comments down below. Perfect. So we're going to go into the next one now. This one I have actually never heard before, so I had to do a little bit of digging. But it says, carbonated drinks suck calcium out of your bones. That is really not true. And the idea of it kind of came from the phosphorus that is in carbonated drinks. And it can, over periods of time, break down your bone density and your bone health. But usually this would only be the case in very, very severe situations where you're completely cutting out your calcium and dairy consumption. Now, you can get calcium in the form of pills that are vegan if you are vegan, but the point is you still need calcium in your diet if you want healthy bone structure. So if you just completely cut out all dairy products and you replace them with carbonated drinks, you can potentially have a risk of getting more fractures, that sort of thing. But this is still completely debunked. Just because you're drinking carbonated soda does not mean your bones are going to break on you. You're not at higher risk for osteoporosis, but I would, if you want to live a healthier lifestyle, I cut out all my consumption of soda because it doesn't have a lot of calorie or nutritional value. It actually does have a lot of calories, but it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value for you. And there are a lot of videos that actually break down what is in it, and if you watch some of those videos, you may not want to drink soda. Maybe you do, but I'm not judging, and no one else on this channel should judge you for still consuming soda. We're all on our own journeys. We're all on our own fitness journeys, and wherever you are, it's important to accept where you are and to not put too much pressure on yourself for where you're not accelerating in your fitness lifestyle. So, we're going to go on to the next one. Now we left that serious note. Hold on, I got a drink. Okay, so the next one that I want to cover is actually spot reduction. So for instance, doing crunches is going to equivalate into a six-pack. I've heard this go around so much, all over social media, some even all over YouTube. Now, you can't, now core exercises are incredibly important. You do want to maintain a healthy and strong core because it's a foundation for the rest of your exercises. If you're doing leg day, you need to have a tight core, especially if you're doing squats. Like, you need to have this tensed and you need to have it tight because it's going to support your lower back. I'm not telling you not to do core exercises. So, with that being said, now, when it comes to spot reduction, by just doing core exercises, and by what I mean by this is essentially if I do just crunches, I'm going to get a six-pack. That is not how it actually ends up operating and working. So what actually happens is you need to lower your body fat percentage and more of your muscles are going to show over a long period of time, or over however many calories you're eating. Please don't eat at too much of a deficit because that is really bad for you as well. Okay. Back on to what I was saying. So if I do a lot of six-pack exercises, I'm not going to automatically have abs after weeks. If I'm doing calorie deficit, and this is where I think people get confused, if I'm in a calorie deficit and I'm doing core exercises, I'm generally, if I'm following a strict calorie deficit diet, I am going to lose body fat. And in turn, I will potentially show more of my midriff in the form of muscle. More muscle is going to come out of my midriff. That sounds really awkward. But that is because you're eating at a deficit and it's getting and melting and making your fat cry and go away. So that does not mean that those exercises equivalated to a six-pack. It took multiple steps. As they always say, your abs are made in the kitchen. And that is why. It's because it's at a deficit. You still want to be doing core exercises for the foundation of the rest of your exercises, such as legs, or, even arm day. Like if you're doing an overhead press, you need to have a tight core. You need to have a strong core. And it's really, really important for balance and for stability, everything. That's why yoga, they always talk about yoga, is really, really important. And I definitely promote yoga if you are having any imbalance issues, because it really helps after a workout to help calm your body down. There are more intense yoga classes, obviously, but yoga is really important for the mind and body. And there's a connection there. That's why brands like Lululemon, their foundational core is around yoga. Yoga is really important. I'm not telling you to just go do yoga now. Everything is a balance. Everything in moderation. Okay, so I think we're almost done here. It was really interesting to me. It said, if a product has no calories, I can have as much as I want. This one's really, really interesting because I haven't heard it anywhere very often, but there are foods that say 0 calories on the box, whatever. So it could be things like celery, for instance. You usually don't get a lot of nutritional value from celery, and usually it about equivalates to about 0 calories, they state. Now, there's also things like you could put in your water, right? Like the little 0 calorie. Now, companies are not authorized to put anything on their labels if it's under 5 calories. So, if all you eat is, like all you drink is put that stuff in your water, you could be having 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 additional calories into your diet without even realizing it. And this may be really startling for some of you. I'm not telling you, I mean, it's a small amount. The amount that you're going to go over may not really affect any weight or may not have you go over calorie deficit. Or if you're trying to gain, maybe it's a good thing, but usually you're eating more high intense foods. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Point is that when you are having 0 calorie foods, that does not mean that it's 0 calories indefinitely. And I can eat as much of it as I want all in one sitting. Really, really not true, and it's really, really important if you are trying to maintain or get to a certain result that you're looking into these. Always do your own research. Always, always, always make sure that you are reading not only the labels, but looking into the actual product that you're deciding to purchase. On to the bonus last one. So, healthy on the outside means you are healthy on the inside. I don't know if any of you guys have gotten into super skinny versus super sized. This show has really, really opened my eyes to a lot of actual effects and problems that happen when you're underweight. A lot of these individuals who are, I would say, borderline anorexic or already anorexic, a lot of negative effects towards being underweight. They may look like they have no fat, and it's because they don't. But that does not mean that what they're consuming is making them healthy inside, internally. There was one specific episode, but all he ate was candy the entire day, and he said he would rather just not consume any food throughout the entire day because all he would have is candy. Now, sugar does actually produce a lot of fat around your organs, and you're not going to see that externally. There's a lot of smaller, underweight people who do get heart attacks because of what they're consuming. What I'm trying to say is, when you're in a deficit, don't just eat foods that have less calories, because you really need to be paying attention that your body's getting the nutrients that it needs to survive. This is a vessel to get you through life. So it's really, really important for us all to treat our bodies with respect, treat ourselves right. And that's another thing I really, really like to talk about in these little tea time chats, because I think that it's really important for us to love ourselves and accept our bodies for where we are, where we're at, and how we're living. If you want to later change these things, that's important too. But taking it one step at a time and accepting where you are, stop looking at other people, stop comparing. I know it's really easy in today's society to just scroll on Instagram and wish that you looked like every single one of those people, but you'd be surprised how many of those people still have lots of insecurities. We all do. We all have insecurities. We all have things we're not proud of. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us introspective. We're looking at ourselves and others and gathering information based off of that. That's what makes us who we are. So, yes, those people may look a lot healthier, but they may not be healthy on the inside. They may not be healthy mentally. They may have mental challenges. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to just look and be like, oh, they have a lot of problems, I don't want to look like that. Just, like, it's all in a balance. It's all relative. We're all on our own journeys. We're all working through things. So never ever assume that someone's not struggling based off of what they're posting on social media. So with that, I think that was a really intense note to end on, and I think it was a really good note, and I think we all need to hear that once in a while. You guys are all beautiful, inside and out. We're all on a journey. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.